Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Podcasts and Players. And with me today is a very special guest. Although every week I have a very special guest. But this week is a very special guest because she's the creator of Electric Bunny Comics and the infamous Fool's Gold D&D series, as well as just a lovely person in general. Give it up for the YouTube animator Dingo Doodles.
Hi.
Hey.
I'm
Welcome.
so glad that you could bring me on.
I'm really glad that you agreed to be on. I did not expect it. I asked as like a half joke. I was just like, haha. And then you're like, sure. I was like, are you serious? Money?
Yeah. Well, it was funny because I was actually, before that, I was nervous. I wanted to actually ask you to be on because I'd been listening to them, like all the other ones. You had brought on all these, great YouTubers and like part of the D&D community, and I was just like, I wonder if I asked him if I could be on, if I would sound egotistical, and I was just like, maybe I'll just leave it.
I see where you're coming from.
Yeah.
I guess I was just like, I didn't want to start out asking a bunch of bigger YouTubers because I didn't want to be like clout chasing, I guess, and like make my podcast take off, Yeah. I wanted to really start with people who I felt like didn't get a fair shake, I guess, with the algorithm. So like Crunk, I feel like she's so talented.
I know, right?
And like it just doesn't pick her up. And I'm like, I feel that you got to be my first guest. And she was cool with that too. And then same with Vitamin Dieter on the third episode. Like he works really hard on his stuff and he's super, super nice. And again, algorithm just doesn't pick him up.
Yeah, it's a cruel mistress. It really is. YouTube is hard to deal with, and trying to figure out how it ticks is almost near impossible. So
for sure. At some point you just gotta like not dwell on it. That's the important thing. It's like, and I've told people this before, but one of my buddies before I started my channel was like, so you're gonna make this series, huh? I was like, yeah. He goes, well, what if like it doesn't see success? I was like, what do you mean? He's like, well, what's your goal for the end of this year? I was like, well, I'd like to get, I think I was trying to get like 200 during my first year, something like that. And he's like, what if you don't? What if you get 50? And I was like, oh. And he's like, yeah, and the next year you what's your goal? 500 maybe? What if you don't? What if you only get to like 100? Maybe 200 then. Are you still going to do it? After that many years of not seeing success, are you still going to keep doing it? And it's an important question to ask yourself if like anyone listening is making or thinking about making a channel.
Yep.
It's you got to not do it for that reason, because if your only reason is trying to get big, then you're going to be really disappointed really fast.
Absolutely. Like that's my number one, when people are just like, how do I become a YouTuber and like how do I become successful? And it's like, just do something you enjoy. That's the main thing. And because it's like, even if nobody was watching Fool's Gold stuff, like I still think I'd still do it. I don't think I'd do it as frequent because it takes a lot to do it, and I would need a job.
Right, yeah. You'd have to split your time up, right.
Yeah, I have to do it properly, split up the time, but I still enjoy making them as much as anything, and the numbers are kind of secondhand to it. But, I mean, it's so important to like what you do, and, people I've seen before where they're just like trend chasers, so they go after a trend and they try to make a thing out of it, and then they go on to the next trend and they're trying to get the big numbers. It's like you'll have a very mediocre audience, like people who are dedicated to you in a way of like, oh, I really like that one thing you did, but they'll never properly remember your username. You know what I mean? Like they'll like the video of you making something like, God, I'm trying to think of a trend. Something with fidget spinners and
or Harlem Shake or
or the
whatever
Harlem
meme
Shake.
is.
Yeah, some kind of meme and stuff like that. And it's just like, if you're just doing it for the trend, you're not going to have an audience that's engaged in just you. Like they're there for you. They're just there for that meme, and then they kind of move on. If you love making memes, then just do that. But you love it, and it's okay if you're not,
Right. If for whatever reason planking happened and you were like, I love planking, and you made a channel dedicated to planking, and that's all you did for the next few years, like, even after it wasn't a thing anymore.
Yeah.
If that's what you love to do it. Like, the point is you have to enjoy it, because otherwise you get stuck. Maybe you've got a bunch of subs. Maybe you did it right. Like you chased the trend, you got all these subs, and now they're expecting you to keep making this content that you were just doing to get big, but now that you're there and you have to keep doing it, you don't really like it. You find out, and it's like kind of like pulling teeth, and it feels like a job, like a normal job.
There's so many YouTubers who I've seen have to go through that, where they just like, I'm stuck in this thing, and now I have to keep producing it because this is what my audience knows of me. Like I can't stray away, even though they want to, and that's kind of sad to see. Where like you have the ability to stray away, but people don't see it like that. It's really hard when it comes to that kind of stuff. So it's a very slippery slope that you can go on. Especially
like it's very malleable earlier on too, because like when you don't have a big audience, you don't have all these big expectations, and you can experiment and try new things and like go crazy with it, and then maybe you get lucky, but like maybe you don't. Either way, you're going to learn more about yourself by making these things and what you really enjoyed doing, and eventually you might come across something that's like the thing, and then you can just do that.
Yeah, and I still hold true to that for myself. Like I really try to make sure that like, okay, even though I'm doing like the Fool's Gold thing of the animated videos, every video I'm experimenting. I'm trying something new. And even though people may not see it, but I know it, like, oh, this video I'm going to try, like, well, the last one, you and I made you made a song for it. And that was really hard for me to put in the way of, like, not that it was a bad song, but just, like, adding music to my stuff was really hard. But that was an experiment, and I needed to get through that. And, the audience loved it at the end, so that was great. But every video I'm trying to add something or like, oh, I do transitions way too often. Let's tone it back in this video. Just like always trying to experiment and change things. So
right, yeah.
It's pretty important. Even though you may have a lot of eyes on you, you have to stay true to yourself and be like, you know what? I need to figure this out. And you guys are here, but at the end of the day, I have to do what makes me become a better and more creative person.
Right.
So that's super important, and I think a lot of YouTubers forget that.
Yeah, growth happens at all stages. It's not just like even it happens when you're first starting out, but even like people who have been doing things for like years, they're still developing, maybe slower because they've sort of reached a point where they're like comfortable with their own style or whatever, but like people are always getting better and figuring it out. And in regards to what you said about the music, like I remember because you were talking about it and you seemed really troubled by it, and I was like kind of like, spur of the moment, I had nothing going on at the moment. I was like, hey, so I make music for my stuff. Maybe I could just make a thing. Maybe you'll like it. Maybe you won't. That's okay. That'll give me a bit of practice, because I've been stuck animating this video that I'm working on for like literally like more than a few months now. And I haven't had a lot of practice in scoring music to something in a while. And I was like, well, if nothing else, this could be practice. And luckily for me, you did like it. Mm-hmm. And probably more luckily for me, Felix liked it, because he convinced you not to run away.
Yeah. Yeah, I am very grateful that you did that, and maybe we'll do more in the future if you want. I mean, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, you can always contact me for something like that. I'd be more than willing to give it a shot.
Okay, that means a lot, because it's definitely like music has been such an anxiety for me, because I hate my voice with music. Like when you pair them up together, it makes me instantly like pull back and go no, because it feels like I don't know how else to describe it other than like you're cringing at it. It's just like a big cringe fest for me.
So I want to, can I unpack this a bit, because I
Sure.
want to know more about it. Okay. So like, welcome to Podcasts and Players, where I got the big scoop on Dingo Doodles. No, I want to know, like, so the way I kind of made it, right, was like once you started explaining something, the music dialed back and it was more just sort of like a drum beat with a little bit of like strings here and there. And it was like quieter. How did you feel about that? Because
I like that a lot.
Because yeah, it basically took a back seat so that you could get this exposition out of the way, and then it like came in later.
Yeah, I thought that was really, really good because you let the information come out to the audience and not like you're not trying to distract them with like, more levels of music on top. It was really nice, and I really do appreciate it that when I talked to you about this music, I was like, hey, yeah, if you make something, just don't let it be crazy, because I'm just trying to be like super minimum. I'm just trying to get like a mood across, and you were super on point. Absolutely fantastic in the end. And I think having my voice acting with music is what I have troubles with.
I see. Okay.
That's kind of like voice acting is still super vulnerable for me. Like I feel very vulnerable when I'm voice acting because it's something that I've never done before.
Yeah.
Like I came into this channel and then I realized that nobody was gonna voice my stuff, so I had to do it. And then I didn't want to rely on any other voices. Like, Felix, even I talked to him and we were just like, should you voice yourself? And he was like, sure. But he has a full-time job, so it was like, well, there would be some times when I'm like, well, I need your voice, but I need to move forward with this video, so I just was like, fuck it, I gotta do everything now, because I have to move forward, and I have to do all of it. And I've been just, like, trying to experiment with voice acting, and I've been looking up videos, and trying to just see how they do it and try to feel confident in that. And I definitely feel more confident than I was when I started. That's for sure. And then, but adding the music, I'm kind of back to square one of being like, okay, the confidence is a little low, but then I just have to build it up more. Every video I'm going to be adding music because I need to get better at like accepting it or having them work together.
Yeah, integrating it into the video.
Yes.
And it doesn't have to be the whole video. It could just be for the important parts,
That's pretty much what I would want, is just like little moments when there's like emotion or there's just like something going on that needs that mood change. So yeah, definitely music is my next like cliff, my next mountain to climb is music. Adding to my videos. So
yeah, and you've taken that first step.
Yes.
Yeah,
well,
I think.
Thank you.
No, thank you for real though. Like, if you did say like we're gonna go with something else, I would have been a little crushed, but I would have been like, well, yeah, them's the ropes, right? So the fact that you guys did like it was just like, hell yeah! Now I get to help Dingo Doodles with the video. This is awesome. Even if it was just this small part, it was really fun to do, and I am looking forward to the future. But enough about what I'm looking forward to. We gotta talk about you here, and I've got some questions sitting in front of me. Of course. And I want to start with you made your public debut with Electric Bunny Comics in 2013, and anybody with Google can learn this. However, what did you do before that?
Like before I launched EB Comics?
Yeah.
Well, I was in my I just graduated high school. And then I went into college. So I guess I was in high school before, and I was doing comics actually on the side during class, which got in trouble with. But actually, it was interesting because all throughout high school, I'd always been drawing my entire life. I've been drawing. And I didn't really start to get serious about it until I was about 13, 14. And then I didn't think of it as a career until I was about 17, 18. When it was like crunch time and I had to figure out where I was going in my life.
Right, yeah.
And I had no idea what I wanted to do in my life. And then one of my friends had suggested, like, why don't you do comics or something? Because you draw them all the time anyway. And I was like, I don't know if that's a viable career. I don't know.
A lot of people try and make it work, and it's questionable if it does. It really...
Yeah, it's to be an artist, like, they say that everybody starts out an artist, but to keep being an artist is the hard part. Like, everybody loves to draw or loves to create things, but people who actually stick and make it a viable career, that's the hard part, because it's so easy to just leave it behind, you know?
Right.
Especially with society. Society is so easy to just be like, get a real job, you know? So anyway, I was in high school, and then we had a project where we could pretty much take the story of Beowulf. You know Beowulf? Like, it's from like the 1100s or something. Very old story. And you could retell it in any medium you want. So some people made a painting, some people like wrote an essay about it, you know, other people.
And you made some comics.
And I made 34 pages in a week.
Holy shit.
Yeah, I just went crazy. I would do all my homework, and then as soon as I'd get home, it was like, I'm just working on this comic, and then any time I had spare in my classes was comic. I was working on this comic. And
was it like a comedic version of Beowulf?
Yes.
Or was it... Okay.
Yes. It was absolutely all satire. It was like, I just completely flipped everything on its head and made Beowulf actually a complete coward. And made him like he was just lucky that he got through everything. like the reason he won at the end was like was just a luck of Grendel like slipping and falling or something like that, and fell out of a window. And when I did this comic, I finished it and I gave it to my teacher, and of course I got like 100%. And the teacher was just like, wow, this is the best project I've ever seen done in my class. And this was like a historical literature class.
Damn.
And then her husband, who's also a teacher, came and approached me in the hallway when I was walking to another class. And he approached me and he said, that was a really great comic. It was really funny. You should do this as a career. And that was my first time an adult ever told me I could do something like that. You know, like it was the first time somebody actually like, because, you know, when you're in high school, you're like, adults know everything. And then one approached me that wasn't my parents, that came in and said, you should do this as a career. And I was just like, oh shit, I should. And then I just applied for colleges, and then I landed on one that was about a year course. It was about 10 months. And I got a diploma out of it, and it was the best college course I've ever gone through, because it was so beautifully put together, of like 3 months of traditional, 3 months of digital, and then 4 months of making whatever you wanted.
Damn.
It was a fantastic course, and the teachers were amazing, and they treated it like you were part of the industry. As in, if you didn't show up, you better get your work done regardless. You know, like, I actually can't work well in groups of people. It's just too distracting. So what I would do is I would come in, say, hey, I'm alive, and then I would take my stuff and I'd leave, and I'd work at home. And I would always get my stuff done. And I did really well in that course. And it was definitely a turning point. And in that course, I launched Electric Bunny Comics, because I was just like, I want to make something now. I want to put something out on the internet and start experimenting with comedy, because comedy's always been a thing in my life. I just wanted to get professional at it.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. This is a big scoop. I'm learning a lot about you today.
I'm a pretty open person. So.
It says on your website that you started making comics in order to make people laugh. Mm-hmm. So laughter is obviously still a goal of yours, but has it expanded beyond that?
Absolutely. I mean, like, one of the things that I've learned from doing the YouTube channel is that I can also write drama, which I didn't know I could do. Like, I'm trying to find this balance of writing comedy and then also learning about drama and how they do it in TV shows. Like, my main goal at the end of the day is I want to write for television. Like, I want to do cartoons, cartoon shows and stuff like that. So, I think with the journey that I've been on and learning about comedy and making people laugh, I've learned also that I can also make people cry.
Right. I think you do really well at balancing both. I think you manage it very, like, even with the beginning, it started off very, like, lighthearted and stuff. But I feel like, so I call this the One Piece effect. And I know there are other shows besides One Piece that does this, but, like, that show starts as a fucking joke. It's so silly that you start watching, you're like, this is stupid. What am I doing watching this dumb show about this guy? He's not even cool. He's made of rubber. How is that cool? Right? And so, like, it's this goofy show, and then, like, it gets to, it starts to give you little bits here and there with, like, Usopp's story, Sanji's story, but then it hits you with Nami's story. And oh my God, like, that's, like, it doesn't, they don't make the characters stop being themselves. Like, Luffy's still kind of like this ignorant idiot the whole time, even when it's like super dramatic. But even though he's an ignorant idiot, like, he's also extremely loyal to his friends, and they demonstrate that in a way that we haven't seen before. And suddenly it meshes. It's like the jokes make you love the characters, and the drama make you really, really fucking feel for these characters, and you don't want anything to happen to them because you want them to joke around again. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I haven't watched a lot of One Piece, but I know that combination of just, like, you start out funny and fun, and then eventually you just get hit fucking hard. And I think that's super important when it comes to writing for an audience, is not to hit them with the hard stuff too early on, because why should they care? Right. Like, why should they care? Because they haven't fallen in love with the characters yet. Like, they need the jokes, they need the silliness, they need the ability to just be like, huh, yeah, he's fun. And then you just realize that this person that's kind of, like, fun actually has, like, a severe, like, issue or something that you can connect with, or you just feel sympathy for. And I feel that there's some shows specifically, I don't want to name any names or anything like that, or there's some, like, podcasts or so, but they put the heavy stuff too early, and then I don't really care. You know?
Yeah.
Like, I don't care, because it's like, you haven't given me the ability to like this character yet. And now you're trying to make me feel for this person that I haven't even said hello to. You know what I mean? Like, that was one of the reasons why there's a moment in episode 5 when I said, I know you guys haven't known Sneeze for long, but Sneeze was like a brother to me. So, when he died, spoilers, in episode 5, I didn't want to force emotions on my audience, because it was like, you guys have just met this guy, like, two videos ago. Like, there's no reason for you guys to care about them. Even though I particularly cared a lot, but that's because I had an entire, like, half a year with him already,
right.
with that character.
And how do you communicate 6 months of real time into, like,
exactly
3 videos?
Exactly. And it was very interesting, because when I posted that video, I got floods of messages of people being like, I cried. Like,
wow.
Yeah. Or people being like, I was legitly upset. And I'm like, how? Like, because you had not met them, but I guess I hit a sweet spot for them or something. I don't know. I still don't know why people cared about Sneeze that early on.
I think maybe it has something to do with Sneeze being intelligent, but also mute. And he's like an animal and, like, cute. And, like, any animal that's cute and somewhat intelligent and loyal to you that gets hurt, the perpetrators must be brought to justice. You know, like, people, I think a lot of people just get, like, riled up. Like, I I've cried many, many times in my life, but some of the most like terrible times, like where I really just had to, like ugly cried, was probably when like my dog died, like 2009, you know, so that was like many years ago, but like that's like, you know, what did that dog ever actually do for me? Like,
other than love you unconditionally, I guess.
Maybe, but I always got the feeling that they probably didn't even like me that much. I think they really liked my stepdad. But also, like, that dog never did anything to me. Like, never harmed me, never said a cruel word to me, never bit me, never did anything like that. And to see this very cute thing that, like, depends on you, this innocent thing, no longer be alive, fucking sucks.
It's crushing.
And I think a lot of people were reading that into with Sneeze, you know?
Yeah. He also had knives, and I think people were really drawn to that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I was just going to take off my psychologist glasses. Oh, sorry. Sometimes get in that mode.
Yeah. But it's been a very interesting experiment with writing to make people care about certain characters or anything. And I think one of the things you have to put in the back of your head when you are writing stuff like this is to think, people might not care. Like, you just have to be ready for that. And also, you need to kind of go at it of being like, why should you care? You know, it's okay if they don't care. It's okay if they do care. Don't disappoint yourself, but just write it in the way that you feel it, I guess, is how I've been doing it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I really had to suppress the urge because when you said, why should they care? I was thinking of the Oliver and Company, that old Disney movie. Why should I worry? Why should I care?
You're suppressing that moment.
I got it out of my system. I'm feeling better. I want another question I had for you, because on your website for your webcomic, you have a little bio about yourself. And in it, you say you love comics, video games, and anime, but there's too many to list. I want you to start listing some. Give us your favorites.
Favorite anime?
Hit us with them. Anime, video games, and comics. And you can take a moment if you need it.
Yeah, okay. I'll start with video games. So my absolute favorite video game of all time is Halo 1, like the first Halo. Because I grew up... Yeah, I grew up with that, and I wasn't allowed to have video games when I was a kid. And that was the very first video game we managed to sneak into the house and I could play. Because it was my sister's ex-boyfriend's Xbox that he brought. And
so did your parents ever like catch you or whatever? Like they hear that blah of the grunts dying and then they like burst open the door. What's going on in here?
Eventually it came to this like... I think eventually they came to this agreement of just like, okay, his Xbox will stay in the house. But they have to make sure that I'm not playing it too much and that there's no like taking over my homework time or anything like that. They also didn't like video games because they thought that it was that stereotypical like you're going to become a murderer kind of thing. They don't think like that now, but that was like, you know, early 2000s like.
Yeah, but they were wrong. You murdered all of us with that cliffhanger. So
Oh, yes. Episode 14. Let's date this episode. Let's date this podcast.
Why not? For anyone who is unaware, if you're listening to this in the future, Dingo and probably Felix are both psychopaths, and they wanted us to feel as badly as she felt or he made her feel during the session. And now a bunch of people have the fires of rage stoked in their hearts. So thank you for that, Dingo.
I thrive off of it. Oh, it's so good.
All right, so Halo, you said.
Yeah, Halo I love. I loved growing up Majora's Mask. A lot of the video games I grew up with, I didn't actually play. I watched people play because I wasn't allowed to have a console, so I would go over to my friend's house and I'd watch them play, like Majora's Mask, Ocarina of Time, and we played a bunch of Star Fox and Mario Party. Lots of Mario Party. Mario Tennis. And Smash Bros.
A lot of Nintendo titles for you, huh?
Yeah, Smash Bros. And like all N64. Like I grew up with the N64 pretty much. And the Super Smash Bros. Is one of my all-time favorites. The 64 version. and I love playing, and I know everybody hates me for it, Kirby. I adore Kirby. Kirby is my favorite.
I love his grab where he does, yeah,
oh, he's the best.
Slams him back. Yeah, I used to be a Kirby guy. For like all the way up until after Brawl. Then Kirby got nerfed, and I was like, it's not as fun. I can't be cheap anymore.
Yeah, yeah. I love Kirby. I play him every time, but I'm not like fantastic. Though I could kick my boyfriend's ass for with the original. He can kick my ass at Melee though, because I never grew up with Melee. And so yeah, I have a lot of those video games. I mean, lately I've been playing Divinity 2 with some friends, and Animal Crossing.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been playing a lot of Animal Crossing.
Oh yeah, same. I was actually thinking about that before this interview. I'm like, let's see, if this interview takes this long, I'll be able to play Animal Crossing.
Go back to my shop. Yeah.
I'm scheduling it around everything.
Yeah.
That's kind of how you have to do it though, because of the real time aspect of it. But
yeah. Yeah.
yeah, it's a good one. That's a good game.
Yeah. So that's pretty much my video games. I mean, God, I have a lot more, but I could spend all day talking about it. And then I guess for anime, I have Full Metal Alchemist, not Brotherhood.
Ooh, not Brotherhood.
I know, I'm very controversial. I love
Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah. Oh, yes, thank you. Actually, yeah, Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z.
I was kind of joking because that's like the most
absolutely.
like well-known.
No, they're actually one of my top. Like I rewatched all of Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z when I went to my second college, and I just like marathoned it in like a month or two, and I just adore that series. I know there's so many. It's so funny to rewatch it all and binge it because you see so many plot holes and so many like inconsistencies of just being like, oh man, there was definitely different studios animating this because they don't know
what happened to Launch. Where did she go?
Yeah.
She's just gone. All right.
Oh yeah, or there's just like
a main character.
There's moments when Krillin has entirely different outfits on. Like one scene he's in his normal like orange suit, and then the other one he was in like one of the like on Namek, he has like one of the
the armors.
Yeah, Frieza's armor.
Yeah, henchman armor.
Yeah, the henchman armor. He's wearing that, and then he's wearing his other suit. Like, just flipping all the time because they had two different studios, and they didn't know what was going on.
Oh, no.
And those are pretty fun to watch. And then my favorite arc, it has to be the Cell arc. So, like, the androids and stuff like that. I love Future Trunks and stuff like that. Like, that whole section, I adore. So, I definitely watch a bunch of DBZ, and I've watched all of the... I haven't watched the new movies. I've watched all of the new Dragon Ball Super.
Oh, how was it?
It's okay.
It's okay. Yeah.
It was okay. I wasn't out... It's just like, I'm getting fighting, I guess. Like...
Yeah. You know what? I gotta try and sell this to you. I recommend you try One Piece again.
You know, I have a friend who absolutely adores One Piece, like to the absolute, like they've read every single manga and every episode and everything like that.
Oh yeah. I've read through the manga like twice. I've watched all the anime 3 times. Like,
yeah,
it's so good.
Yeah, the only thing is that there's like 700 episodes, so it's always like I don't know what I'm.
So here's the thing about that though. So that's very off-putting, and obviously if you don't have the time to like slowly like work through it, that's okay too. However, the biggest difference that I've noticed with One Piece versus Dragon Ball Z is that One Piece, the guy that wrote it, Oda Ichiro, I think, he has an arc from the beginning. He knew where it was going, where the ending was going to be. So he's known for years how it's going to end. In fact, I think in 2006 or something similar, some year a while back, there was a kid who had terminal illness, and their one wish was to know what the ending of One Piece was. And so Oda came to him and whispered the ending of the show in his ear.
Wow.
Akira Toriyama, by contrast, didn't really know what he was doing. He just was writing and just had every saga was just a new, fresh idea. He had no idea where it was going. And so Dragon Ball feels like the world is big and it's full of adventure and all sorts of interesting people. By the time you get to Dragon Ball Z, Earth is really boring and and it's small and it doesn't feel good. Whereas again, to compare again, One Piece, it's all one world. There's no I guess there is space, but that's not where the adventure is. It's one big ocean, and all of the big players, they're known pretty much from the outset. In fact, there's a moment early on before so the whole idea in the beginning, I don't know if you remember, they're trying to get to the Grand Line, right? Well, they do that, and then the whole show is just in the Grand Line. I always imagined before I started watching the show when I was because I never watched as a kid, I watched in my 20s. I always thought that the whole show is them trying to get to the Grand Line and then maybe after 500 episodes eventually getting there. No, they get there in episode 60 or something, and then they're just going through this slog. That's the whole thing is they're making names for themselves by going through this really dangerous area of the world where you never know who you're going to go up against. You never know who's going to try and get you or whatever. And so the world still feels extremely big, and it feels very when they introduce new villains that could be more powerful than your main heroes. It makes sense because the world's really big and there's lots of people out there and a lot of strong people at that. And so it's and the thing is they're not necessarily your enemies either, which is really important. With DBZ, it always felt like every time there was this big, strong person, it was always a Frieza or a Cell or some enemy, right? And only Goku or whoever could fight him. Whereas this, it's there are other talents that are valued here. So Nami isn't the best fighter, but she's the navigator, and without her, they can't go anywhere. And then it's
it's balanced.
And it makes the whole crew feels like the main character. Obviously Luffy's the center point, the linchpin, but everybody, you get to know them and you get to really feel for them. And so it's if anything happens to any of them, it's if something happens to Oolong or Poir or something, I don't care. I don't get, Chaozu dies. Who cares? I don't care about that. But in One Piece, if Chopper were to die, I'd fucking riot. I would riot. Yeah. Okay. So that's it. I'm getting off my soapbox. I'm sorry. But that's my angle, my hard sell for you. I think you should
and I know. Yeah, it's definitely one of the animes that I'm always kind of looking at, and I'm it really is just the number that scares me, because it's God knows how many episodes there are. Well, probably how many episodes there are.
Yeah, I'm not gonna cite a number, but let's just say, look, the first arc it's called the East Blue arc because it all takes place on the same ocean before they get to the Grand Line. I think it's about 70 something episodes. Okay. Start with there. Just start there.
Okay. Yeah.
Because that way, if you don't like it, you can drop it at that point. You don't have to worry about it anymore. But hopefully, it'll sink its teeth in you.
I'll get a taste for it.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry. All right. I didn't mean to do that, but I just really like to share things that I think other people should see.
Yeah.
And I guess the last question for you. Oh no, it's a two-parter. What originally led to you posting D&D content on YouTube? It's the first one.
Well, definitely Ben. So Puff and Forest was an influence, because I remember I wanted to start a storytime animation channel for the longest time, since 2014 or so, 2013, 14. When I got out of college, and I was what do I want to do with my life? And I'm I don't know, do something that's fun. And then I kind of saw Dominic's came out just that year, I think. And I remember watching him and going I'd love to do something like that. That sounds like fun. And I love to talk about crazy stuff that happens in my life, because I had a very interesting life. So, it was just kind of a natural thing for me. So I actually went to animation school. So Like, not specifically just for storytime animation, but I had this, like, this pull. I don't know if you've ever had that in your life when something tells you you have to do this or you're going to regret it for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
So I was just like, I gotta go do this. And I spent 12 months away from where I live now, which was about a 12-hour drive difference. And I actually went long distance with my boyfriend, Felix. And I just studied there for 12 months because I was like, I need to learn 2D animation. And I don't know why, but I need to. And then I just kind of translated it into YouTube. And D&D kind of seemed like a natural fit because just recently, I think it was 2 months after the Tarrasque incident happened, I was like, I think I got a story that I could animate because the Tarrasque happened in November, and then I made the video for D&D in January, actually. I know I posted in April, but I actually made the video in January because at the time I was working for a company doing comics for them, and I knew that I couldn't focus on YouTube. So I did the video on my off time when I wasn't working on this contract I was on. And so the D&D video I posted, and then, well, it took off right away. It was literally like the first week I got 15,000 subscribers, and that was crazy because it took me 4 years to get to 15,000 Facebook likes, for my comic.
Right.
So I was just like, are you serious? And then and then it just kept going and going and going, and then I was like, well, I finished the campaign of Fool's Gold in June of 2018. So around that point, I decided that I was going to make episode 2 of the Fool's Gold series. And then I was like, well, I know how the series ends, so I can now animate it, I guess. And then it just kind of kept going.
I like the idea that you're sitting at like a tablet and you're like, I guess I'll just keep doing this, I guess, like looking around like, I mean, I don't know.
I don't know, nobody's telling me to stop, so it just kind of kept going. And then people kept cheering me on, and then I was just like, yeah, this is fun, this is great. And then I just kept going, and then I just finally decided that I was going to do the whole series. It took me up to like episode 6 though to decide.
Yeah, at that point you were like, well, all right.
Yeah,
I guess
it was a lot of like jumping in and out of the pool. It's just like, am I going in? Am I doing it? Am I doing it? And then Felix is like, you have no choice. You're doing it now. And it's like, oh God, okay. Yeah, he just pushed me in and said, no, you're doing it. You gotta finish it because I want to finish something in my goddamn life. So,
dude, oh my God, I feel that like deep down in my soul. I feel that.
I know.
Like I'm
all creatives, man.
Oh yeah, dude. Like, I if it wasn't for 2016, I went to I served in Peace Corps for like 2 years. Or 2 years and some change. So I was in China teaching English and stuff, but like you're over there, you're by yourself basically. There's like a infrastructure, but you live at site alone. So you have to do shit on your own. Like you have to be a teacher in a foreign country and keep a schedule and all that. And like, if it wasn't for that, I don't know if I could be doing what I'm doing today. Cause like I learned how to manage my time way better.
Yeah. Discipline, right?
Yeah. I learned that. I learned that like, I can do anything I need to do. I need to not look at it as I need to be motivated. I need to look at it as I need to be disciplined. God damn it. Because it's motivation comes and goes. Inspiration comes and goes. Like, yeah, that's the great starting point. Mm-hmm. That's great for like getting an idea together, but getting through it, it's like not going to be fun the whole way through.
It's like sprinting and then jogging. You have your little bit of a sprint, but a real career, like a real making something and finishing it is a jog. You're right. You're slowly going throughout the paces, and you sometimes are feeling your lungs burn and you just want to stop, but you know that you can slow down a bit and then just keep it up and keep going. As long as you're at a constant.
Doing any little thing each day, something is a step forward.
Yeah.
It's like building a house by yourself. Like, yeah, like today you laid down like 20 bricks. Is that enough to build a house? No, but that's a part. Like if you didn't do that, then you'd have to do it another day. So like each day making it count and moving that ticker forward until you get to that point where you're like, did I actually just finish this thing?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's amazing what you can do if you just do little bites instead of looking at it as a giant mountain that you have to climb up, you know?
Yeah.
Take bites out of that mountain, just one bite at a time.
Yeah, that's the phrase, right?
Yeah, that's the phrase. That seems about right.
Climb the mountain one bite at a time.
Yeah. Seems about right.
And I guess my last question is, what's next for your channel and what are your goals for this year?
Next for the channel, I mean, it's mostly just like I want to keep making the episodes and consistently putting out content. Also, I do want to do some other things on the side. Like, I constantly have this guilt about, like, I'm just consistently making just Fool's Gold stuff, even though that's what my brain wants. Like, I should be trying to do other things too. Like, I don't know, because it's like...
You're going to feel guilt no matter what, I think. Because, like, once you start doing something that's not Fool's Gold, then you're going to feel guilt because you're not doing all Fool's Gold. You're like, oh, man, now I'm dividing my time up and I'm not getting this done when I wanted to get it done.
Yeah, I guess I'm just trying to make sure I don't become stagnant. That's my fear, is, like, I don't want to become stagnant where I'm, like, only making one thing that is not helping me grow as a person. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I don't want to become comfortable because every video I make, I want to feel slightly uncomfortable every time. I want to feel slightly like, I don't know how to do this, because in order to know how I do it is I need to do it. I need to... Right,
yeah, no, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I consistently am looking at other people's content or shows or listening to help podcasts, you know, people who do advice and stuff like that. Like, I'm always consistently trying to learn, and I feel like stopping... I feel like if I stopped learning, that would be kind of like the death of my channel. You know what I mean? Like, I would just... I don't think I'd feel like I'd want to do it.
Well, yeah, also you grow bored with it.
Yeah.
Like, by keeping yourself growing and learning and trying new things, it keeps it interesting for you. And that's the most important thing, because if it's interesting for you, that means you can get the work done. If it's not interesting, then it's like you don't feel motivated. Even if people are like waiting for the next thing, you're like, you know. But if you're trying new things, like I think the music and the voice acting, all that stuff is just, those are all pieces of that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's trying to branch out a bit and do a little bit more, or do something a bit different with an episode. Like you know, you could do, if you really wanted to go crazy, is make a music video for your characters or whatever. Like,
you know, I've been secretly thinking about that one day, but
yeah, I bet.
Like, but it's always just like, no.
I already have an idea for what I would do, but my problem is I need to get to that point, and I just take so long on my stuff.
Yeah.
For me, it's like I have to do other things just so that I can, like, be doing other things. Like, I have, like, similar to how you feel maybe a bit guilty about only doing Fool's Gold. You still have a really good workflow, and, like, you get your stuff out in a very timely manner.
Yeah.
So even if you didn't decide to do anything else, you decided to just kind of expand and, like, challenge yourself with Fool's Gold, but stick with that. Like, that would still be like really fine, because you're getting them out at a pretty decent rate. Yeah. Whereas, like, with my situation, because I take so long, it's like if I don't do anything else, I'm gonna go insane, because then I'm gonna be stuck on the same shit all the time, and, like, that would drive me batty. So, like, having this podcast or making music or doing something else, like, it's my way of challenging myself. So, like, when you said all that, like, it made perfect sense. Like, that's exactly what any creator should be doing
Mm-hmm.
is challenging themselves and trying to grow.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I don't know how you like work on one thing for like a couple months, because I get so squirrely when I like the last video. No, it was episode 13. Episode 13, I think, was like 15 minutes long, and I wanted to pull my freaking hair out by the end. I was just like, I'm so done with this. I've been working on it for longer than I wanted, which was about less than a month, and I was definitely like, I need to get it out now. Like, I can't stand it anymore. I can't look at these characters anymore. Like,
I feel that, but at the same time, I'm like, I know that I can't wish myself up to the top of the mountain. Mm-hmm. Right? If we're gonna keep using that analogy,
bite yourself.
I can't swallow the whole mountain. All right, I have to nibble at it. Yeah. And for me, it's like, since I'm doing every aspect of it, with the exception of like some of the voice acting, which happens so early on that like once it's done, everything else is me anyway. So it's just, I have to break it up into pieces, and by doing that, I feel accomplished each day because I feel like I did something each day.
That's
by
a
like
good
checking
way to
something
go about
off
it. Yeah,
a list. Yeah, you know, at some point, I wanted to ask you about D&D games. It's already been like 53 minutes or something. Because
we have good topics to talk about.
Yeah. I mean, can I ask? Are you able to talk for longer than an hour? Did you want to do like maybe an hour and a half?
Sure, that's fine.
That's fine? Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, cool. This will be a little bonus like content for people. They'll be really happy.
Yeah.
All right. So, we'll transition to role playing a little bit here.
Sure.
I want to know, how do you approach making your characters?
Like how I go about it?
Yeah.
Well, I guess I usually start with just trying to figure out what race I would like to do, and what kind, well, more likely what kind of class I want to play, because there's always like, what have I played before, what have I not played, well, let's try something I have not played. Yeah, sorcerer. I played 2 sorcerers, or no, 3 now. Well, the third was a one shot, so I don't know if they count. 2 sorcerers, and then I've played 2 clerics, barbarian, fighter. I have not played a wizard yet, but I heard that it's kind of like, it's like a sorcerer, but shittier. I don't know. Like, I don't know
if I'd say that.
I don't know. It's because you have to like pay attention.
Oh,
to
but
your books
you're doing
and stuff.
3.5, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I wouldn't know. Actually, I never played a wizard in 3.5 either.
Okay, but also like I am moving into 5e a bit more. So pretty much like I figure out my class, and then I figure out like what's a race that I haven't played or is really weird. Because like, it was funny, some people were like, why did you make a monkey? And it's like, well, it was because I never seen anybody else play it, because it's like, have you ever seen anybody play a monkey? No, it's weird. It's different.
No, I don't think I have.
Yeah, exactly. You haven't. I've been every single race almost in the vanilla. So I was definitely like, okay, well, I'm going to try something new and different. And then I also, when I create a character, I take a small aspect of myself and I bring it out and put it in the character. So playing Fool's Gold, I realized that when I make a character, I put a problem I have into that character. Like, usually at that time, there's something wrong. Like, life happens, and there's something that's bothering you. You're stressed, or maybe you're thinking too much about, like you want purpose in your life, or like some deep shit. Like I'm not pulling punches with it, because when I make a character, I think of like, well, what's my issue right now that I'm trying to work on myself? And I put it in the character, and I've just recently started to put that in consciously. I've been doing it subconsciously for the past few characters, and then for the last 3 characters, I've actually consciously been like, what do I want to work through? Because I use D&D sometimes as therapy.
Yeah, so it's funny that you mentioned that, because the last episode that I recorded was with another YouTuber named Eldritch Sugar, which I haven't edited yet. I'm going to release soon. By the time this comes out, that'll already be out. But basically, she was saying the same thing. Like,
oh, okay.
Yeah, like literally almost like it was uncanny. You were saying you were hitting some of the same talking points. I was like, dang, a lot of people use D&D for therapy.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so, it's opening than you thought it would be, because it's like, you think this is just a game, and it is in a way, but it's digging deep into your your subconscious, that you start to notice, oh shit, that's why I do that. Or like, oh god, now I realize why I was upset about that. And, I mean, if you want to know a little bit, I'm not going to do any spoilers or anything with the campaign or anything like that. But, Sips, when I made him, my problem in life was I was losing control. And so playing with him, I slowly learned on how to deal with that. And it was really eye-opening. Like, I learned a lot from playing Sips on how that could be solved in my life. And I did not expect that at all. Like, I was just like, when we finished the campaign and everything, I kind of stepped back and went, whoa, like, that's crazy. Like, I actually got a life lesson from playing this bitchy monkey. You know, it was just like, my god. And
damn.
Yeah, it's so crazy. And right now I'm playing a character that is a Drider druid, and
she's I've seen pictures of her.
Yeah,
before.
Lesia.
She's got all the
mushrooms.
Mushrooms, yeah.
Yeah, Lesia. She's a very sweetheart, and her problem is she has low confidence, like super low confidence, like no self-worth or anything like that. And when I made her, once again, this was subconscious. This was around the time when my channel blew up. So I got the 100,000 subs in 4 months.
Yeah.
And that completely crushed my confidence, which is funny because you'd think it would be the opposite. But it didn't. It completely crushed me because I got into a point where I was like, everything I do feels like imposter syndrome, and just like I can't say anything without worrying if I'm offending someone, or like all my confidence just shriveled up, and I kind of, I guess, put that into Lesia because she became a complete like, she has no confidence, and I'm working my confidence back up with her. Like, she's way more confident right now than she was when I first started in the sessions. Not saying that I just learn from just D&D, you know, I do other things to help myself, but it's just so interesting that these characters are embodiments of problems and issues that I've been running through, and I'm kind of working them out as I play them.
You know, I've never personally thought about my own characters in that way, but now I'm trying to look back, and there's definitely, like, I guess it depends on the character, but like, I guess all my characters have a little bit of some desire in them, like something I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, currently I am playing it's known to the party, so I can say it now, but I'm playing a changeling who had a pretty tragic past, as a lot of D&D characters end up having. Mm-hmm. But his whole thing is like, he's like, I took inspiration from the movie Seven Psychopaths. Have you ever seen that?
No, I've not. It's
got Colin Farrell and Sam Rockwell and Christopher Walken. And like, Colin Farrell's like this author who's trying to write a script for a movie in Hollywood, and his buddy, played by Sam Rockwell, is trying to help him out. But in the meantime, they get caught up in like this whole like gangster thing, and like things just kind of escalate for what Colin Farrell's character believes is no real reason. It's just escalating for no reason. However, his whole script idea is about 7 different psychopaths and how they're different. And it turns out that one of the psychopaths was based off of his buddy, Sam Rockwell character, who actually is fucking crazy. But someone mentioned that he's how you could play chaotic evil in a campaign without harming the party. And I wondered about that, and I looked, and his whole character, the whole thing that he does in that movie is he basically pisses off the mob, and he does all this other stuff behind the scenes so that his friend could write a better script. He's trying to inspire his friend by getting him in real danger and like helping him out and like protecting him and stuff, but like deliberately like brought them out to the desert for this like final showdown so that they can give this dog back to this like this mob boss who's played by Woody Harrelson actually. And like the whole time is just hilarious because he's like not the smartest guy, but like I never saw it coming when I watched it. I didn't know that he was the guy that was pulling all these strings, and he was literally just doing it. It's like, 'cause I'm just trying to help out my buddy. Like, you know, like, yeah, that's evil in the sense of like, well, it's selfish for him because his buddy is like, is like a part of him in a way. And so he kills people, he shoots people, he does all this awful, evil shit. But, you know, hey, if his buddy writes a better movie because of it, then, well, it was worth it. So I wanted to take traits from that, and I wanted to make a character that was sort of like, you know, kind of bumbling and cheerful on the surface, but like has no scruples about like if there's something that's important to him, he'll do whatever it takes to make sure that that's either protected or that they get what they want or whatever. Yep. And if something happens to a party member, and it hasn't happened yet, I'm waiting. But if something happens to one of the party members, like we make an enemy or that enemy tries to do something, I am going to try and work with the DM to try and assassinate that person out of game. Like,
absolutely.
Yeah, and like that's not something. Now, does Shane want to do this? Well, maybe I've had some dark thoughts about people I don't like, sure, but like obviously I would never do that. But I mean, this is, I guess, a way to do that in game is like make a character that exemplifies this trait that you've always wanted to act out as, and then act it out with no repercussions because it's D&D.
Yeah, that's really what it is for me. Of like, I love to pretty much test the waters with things. It's really interesting to play a character specifically like, let's say, Sips, where a lot of the shit he does, I don't agree with. Like, I don't. As a player, I don't agree with what he does, but I know that when I'm playing him, this is what he would do. It's like I know his backstory, I know who he is, and I know the circumstances that are around the situation, and this is how he would act. And it's very interesting that you have to fight against yourself a lot when you have characters like that. I'm playing a character that is lawful good, Azamar. Like she is quite prideful, and there's a lot of times when I have to fight against what she does because she, first of all, I'm not a lawful good person. like I'm very chaotic. I'm a very chaotic person in general. So to play a lawful person is really hard for me. So it's interesting that D&D can make you kind of experiment with different sides of yourself, and also watching from afar and going, no, but yes. You know the character has to do this. There's stuff that Sips does that I don't agree with. And it's very interesting to see how people react to it or something like that. Because it's always like, no, I agree, he's a jerk. Like,
yeah.
It's like, yeah, he's a complete asshole. It's
sometimes hard to like differentiate between the character and the player. Mm-hmm. I often fall into the trap of where I try to do the most logical thing, but like I also like to play idiots. So like it's hard to play an idiot who's also really logical and like, doing the right thing all the time. It's I don't know.
Yeah.
It can be difficult to strike that balance.
There was a moment. I love playing characters when I know as a player that this is wrong, but the character doesn't. I love stuff like that. We just recently had a session last week where my character was told not to use her magic underground. Like, we're in like the Underdark where like mind flares and shit are.
Oh,
and yeah, it's pretty rough right now. And there's this thing going on that if she casts her magic, they will know where we are.
Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's like a really hard thing of being like, she can't cast her magic, and we've been told this, but then there's like a time period where like I forgot, and everybody, because we'd been playing down here for quite a while, and
Right.
I forgot. And then everybody else kind of forgot. And then there was this discussion of being like, hey, you should cast to make something. Like, we were making, she was going to make some mushrooms and stuff. And there was this time where I just went, oh, fuck. I forgot I'm not supposed to cast magic. And I'm like, well, Leslie already said she's going to do it. So she's doing it. Like I was just like, no, the character's into it. She's too deep into it. She's gonna do it, and I know the consequences are coming.
Yeah. And you could also rule it at that point like the characters also forgot.
Oh, well,
like they got
absolutely.
so wrapped up in what was going on that they didn't remember.
Absolutely. No, they do that. Like, I do that all the time with characters where they do stuff that it's always like they're irrational, they're emotional, and they're gonna do something that's completely off of what they would logically do. Because that just makes it more interesting. I'm a very chaotic person, and I love chaos. I thrive on it.
I wonder what brought you to play a awakened monkey with a cursed arm and wild magic. That's not chaotic at all.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I remember talking to somebody, and they were just like, I could never play wild magic. It's too, like, it puts me too much on edge. Like, I don't have control and stuff like that. And it's like, it's funny where, like, Sips' whole thing is that he loses control and he hates it, but I personally love the wild magic of it, of just being like, yeah, fuck things up, like, let's destroy shit, let's see what happens. And like whenever I roll wild magic, it's always like, whoa, like, what's it gonna be? Oh, it's so exciting. I love that stuff.
I think, yeah, I was thinking about that too, because I've never played wild magic before, although I have played with the item, the Wand of Wonder.
Mm-hmm.
So anyone who's not familiar with that, it's a magic item. It's a wand where you roll on a D100 and you consult the table to see what happens. So you don't actually know. When you activate the Wand of Wonder, it's literally only wild. Like, you don't actually know what's going to happen. Yeah. And if you target the wrong thing, or if you roll on the wrong thing, you can accidentally target yourself. And some, like, I was using a character, they use the Wand of Wonder, and then I think on 100, it's you turn the target to stone if they fail a DC 15 con save or something. Ooh. They become petrified. Well, I didn't target a person, so it rebounded on me, and I had to make that save, and I made it, but my character was so pissed that they snapped the wand in half. And like, yeah. Did I want to snap the wand in half? No, but my character almost turned themselves to stone. Yes, they're fucking mad. They're not using the stupid wand anymore, and of course, like, my DM decided to make it so, like, when you break a magic item like that, it creates like a blast. So, like, I took a bunch of force damage, and there's another character near me, and they took force damage too. It got knocked out, and they'd already been knocked down like twice that day. So they're like, I guess I'm just gonna die.
I guess I'll just fuck everything, I guess. Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess it takes a kind of personality to also like that sort of thing. A lot of people feel like they already don't have maybe control, and so they want a character where they can fantasize about having control over this thing.
Yeah, where it's interesting for me, where I like it the opposite, in the way of like my life at the especially at the time was like I was losing so much control in my life, but having to lose control in game was fun because there's no real repercussions. You kind of get to play out the situation, and there's no real, like, now you actually have a hole in your house or something like that, or you
Right.
actually open up a portal to the fire plane. It's just like, no, it's just something now in D&D that you have to deal with, and you have a group of friends with you to deal with it. That's the best part about it, is that when you're losing control, you have other people that can help you. Yeah, it's definitely interesting that, like, like you said, some people can't handle it, and I didn't realize. I guess I was one of those people that can, and it's just really fun. But yeah, it makes the sessions a little more interesting, I guess, and letting yourself go a bit is pretty cool.
Yeah, I have another question for you. This is a bit off the topic of characters, but what's like your favorite monster to fight, or to fight as, like, if you were the DM? Like, what has the best role-playing potential, do you think?
You got me with that one. Because it's like there's a lot. So it's like trying to figure it out. I mean, I like Displacer Beasts quite a bit. Just because you have the whole, like, the blur thing. I always think that's so cool.
Yeah.
And a lot of the monsters we make are homebrew. I can tell you about a homebrew monster I like.
Yes, please do.
Okay. So in my campaign, we had, I have 2 players in my campaign. It's a 2v1. And they were in a town called Wallflower. Just a little village. And the entire village was inhabited by people that were completely covered in wood. Like they could move. It was almost like inanimate objects in a way. But it was smooth, and it was almost like, it was like a skin, almost. And the entire thing about Wallflower is that there's a giant wasp that pretty much is made of a tree. And the little wasps will sting you and cover you in this wood, and you will become controlled by it. And they feed off of your life force that way. And so they had to fight this creature, and it was really fun because it was kind of this thing of, if you get stung by these little bees, you can get infected and become controlled, or you just have a big fucking wasp that you're fighting, which was also a lot of fun. And so I've taken that wasp, and I've actually, in my campaign, there's a lot of things about the planes, like different planes of existence. Like fire plane and everything like that.
Yeah.
So what I've done is I've also taken that wasp concept and moved it with different planes. So they had to fight like an ice wasp that could also do that. So you get stung and you just become covered in complete ice and stuff like that. And it could also give you a disease. So I love playing with mixing animals and creatures and insects, and then kind of adding something on top that makes it even more dangerous. So I like doing a lot of homebrew with that.
That is really cool. It's kind of like literally like a hive mind thing.
Exactly. That was kind of what it went off of, was like, what could I make here that was like like literally on the nose, like so I love making homebrew monsters. I mostly do homebrew monsters just because I find I love to play with what I'm building in the world. So if they're in a certain region, I would be like, okay, well, I'll take like a giant wasp or a giant spider, or maybe I'll do I did like a purple worm kind of mix. I changed it into something completely different, and I made almost like a purple worm, but it's like it had arms and like scythes, so it could like slash at you, and then it could actually talk to you, and it had one giant eye, and it was fucking horrifying.
No.
And yeah, and had like teeth and stuff, and it was French.
Oh no, that's even worse.
Yeah, because I was practicing my French voice for the Bouclair episode, so I was like, I'm gonna make a French worm that's gonna beat that shit out of you.
Oh God. Yeah. The fact that it has 2 scythes, and that I just imagine it is like, has the face of that cook from The Little Mermaid. wee, da, 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 da. Or...
No, this thing's way more horrifying. It's got one giant fucking eye.
Oh, God.
And it's got thorns all over it, and it has like roses growing out of it as well, because you can always tell when it's near you when rose petals are flying through the air.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah. It would go up on the ceiling, and what happened is they went into a cave, and this thing had like a garden it was building, and then they saw rose petals fall from the ceiling, but this is like a cave, so they're like, what the fuck? And they look up and they just see a giant fucking eye. And this thing came down, and it was like, what are you doing? Like, I can't do the accent because it's like, what are you doing in my garden? And it was just like, oh God. It was such a good moment. I fucking love that.
That's awesome.
Oh, it was so good. Everybody freaked out, and one of my players got eaten. It was great. It was like...
I gotta like, I think that's my weakest part when I DM is I don't make enough homebrew monsters. Like I usually just use whatever I can from the monster manual or Volo's guide or something. But like, the thing is like, it's still, it feels like a lot of work to make a monster, because not only do you have to make the stats, which I guess in 5e isn't so hard, but like. Usually you don't want to start from the stats. You want to start from like the environment, right? Or like the role playing, like, you know, what would be a cool idea? So you were saying like take certain animals and like combine them, sort of like just Jackdaw does with like Poke fusions and stuff. Or... Yeah.
It's pretty much like the way I would go about it is, you take something and then you kind of mix it around and then you try to adjust it to like their level and everything like that. But at the end of the day, sometimes I just fudge it. Like I just fudge the numbers and just be like, you guys attack this thing, and then I know the AC and I know everything, but I find that I can adjust it sometimes as they play to make sure that they're having a good time. Like if they're fucking spending way too long on it and they're just like tearing their fucking hair out, I'll just add something or move something around. It all depends on the players you're playing with, because some of them will not be okay with that, and that's fine. But the players I have are very good with adjusting things. So
yeah, I guess it also just of course depends on the players. It depends on your table.
Homebrew is super important when it comes to trust. Trust is super important. There was somebody who asked me, like, how do you play with a group that's all homebrew? Or, how do you play with such a great group? And it's like, it's all about trust. If you don't trust your players and you don't trust the DM, then you're not going to be able to do homebrew to the extent that you could. Right. Because there's a lot of times when you make something that's homebrew and it could be OP, it could also be like, not like, it could be garbage, and you need your players to weigh in and talk to you about it, and you need to trust that they aren't there to break your game and that you are trying to make the best game for them as well. Like you're both working together, and it's very important where we can be like, okay, yeah, I am gonna be giving you, well, let's do an example from Fool's Gold, the giant mech dragon, right? It's a giant fucking dragon that's made out of metal. Well, it can crush and destroy everything if we want it to. But Felix knows that we're not going to do that because it's boring. And we will use it for certain things, but at the end of the day, we don't want to destroy his story. Like, whatever he's planning, whatever the cookie crumbs he's giving us, we don't want to just demolish it with the dragon because that's boring for us. That's kind of like, why would we use it to just kind of get that whole section over and done with, right?
Right. So,
along with, like, Sips's hairbrush, that is game-breaking. Because it's an alignment change. It's absolutely game-breaking. And I only used it once. And then afterwards, we pretty much said that, like, well, what we kind of decided was like he still had it, but I wouldn't use it again because it's boring. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's just like, it's the same trick, and the whole reason Sips is fun for me is because I get to think of new things to do. Like, being a sorcerer is fun because you get to think of new spells, but also his wild magic and, like, everything's new with his touch curse and everything, so it's like, why the fuck would I use the hairbrush again if that's just gonna skip through a whole story or something like that? Like, that's stupid. That's not fun for us as a player. You know, it's just, and for the DM, it's not fun. So we pretty much just said that the brush only has a one-time use and then gone.
Yeah.
But even then, it's like we could have said it was still active, but I still wouldn't have used it. So, you know, it's all about trying to figure out how your players work, what they like. If you have a power gamer in there, you can't throw OP shit at them. You know what I mean? Like like if you have somebody who hungers for power, you can't
not me.
You can't give them the giant mech dragon. You can't give them the hairbrush.
Listen, I just need it for a couple hours, all right? Go for a little joyride. I'll be back.
Yeah, I just
stop
want
by
to
a few kingdoms on the way.
Yeah, let me just fucking destroy kingdoms and become ruler over here. So, you know, you have to really figure out how people work in your game at your table. And that's why, you know, you can't do homebrew with, like, people you just met. Or I guess you could, but you're testing a lot of waters. You're really, you know.
you shouldn't be taking a lot of risks with people you just met anyway. But, like, I guess, again, with the group thing, like, you guys are a very close-knit, like, group of friends, have known each other for a long time. So it's easier for you guys if there are things like that. You know where each other's coming from. You all have, like, each other's best interest in mind. So no one's trying to, like, break the game. But I have been in groups with people who I have known before, who, if they were given a trump card, they would spam the trump card every opportunity that they had. And we've had it where, like, the DM then has to figure out a way to throw something even bigger at them so that trump card doesn't work anymore. And it's like, it kind of begets this adversarial relationship, which it can be fun occasionally, but it isn't very fun if you're craving a story with you all working together. Maybe your characters are at odds, but you as players are trying to work together to tell the story. It's not very good when, like, one person has this thing that's just OP and is just wrecking every encounter, making it not fun anymore for anybody. Because anytime, like, for example, let's say I'm a rogue, right? I'm a rouge. And I go and I'm like, hey, this door's locked. I've got thieves' tools. I'm a rogue. Therefore, it's my thing. Let me go and do this. And someone's like, actually, I have the knock spell. And then they cast knock and it creates this loud noise. And then we're found out. And it's like, well, yeah, all right. You've got the knock spell.
Yeah. You don't have to.
But also, I'm a rogue and it's like my thing. So you could just let me do it. Yeah.
No, yeah. When people cock block you, it's rough.
And I've felt that before, and you know what, and I'm ashamed to say I probably have been that person before as well. And it's like,
I think we all have. I think you have to test and figure out where people are. Like, you have to, like, really just figure out what exactly they want to get out of the game.
Yeah.
And but no, I've been in that situation too. I've definitely had it where we've had power gamers. Like, I've been with several other groups, and I've had power gamers. I've had intense rule lawyers. I've had just people who just are like, you know, fuck the party, just me. You know, like, I'm the one. I am the chosen one.
Right.
I am the one who will defeat everything by myself, you know?
Or just, like, edgelords who are like, you know, you're in a tavern, you're all trying to meet, and, like, my edgelord stays in the corner and doesn't say anything. And it's like, all right, well, do you want to play in this party or not?
Yeah, which, like, okay, one thing about that, too, is, like, the interesting thing about when I was playing Sips is, how do you play an edgelord and, like, a shitty jerk without actually being an edgelord and a shitty jerk? Like how do you properly balance yourself in the party so that you're not shutting things down and you're not making everybody pissed off in real life.
Yeah.
Because, if you're playing a jerk character, you have to be very careful because you can actually be a jerk. So you have to have like a good balance of like comedy and that character giving up and admitting when they're wrong is super important. Because if they never admit they're wrong, or at least never get to a point where they know that they're wrong, then you are making a very toxic jerk character. You know what I mean? Like they're kind of like the entire party in real life will be mad at that character and potentially the player. And that's kind of just making this toxic kind of mess that goes into your group. And I've definitely encountered that before. And it's not fun, And so when I played Sips, I had to balance it where the time you could actually get information from him about anything, because like he wouldn't talk about anything that would be important of being like, hey, we need to talk about this. Like you just, had a bad moment or something. We need to talk about it. He gets emotional and then eventually the information comes out, but he's mad and he talks about it. But at least he's getting it out where you can work with it instead of being an edgelord where you just shut it down and you're like, no, I'm not talking about anything ever. It's just like, well, then we can't move forward. You need to talk about it, about whatever it is that your character's bothered by, but do it in a way that makes it like emotional or fun and dramatic, where like maybe they do something stupid, like in episode 11, Sips burns down an entire casino, because he's so fucking pissed off. It probably wasn't the best call because some of those people were probably innocent.
Yeah, but hey, we've all been there. We've all burned down a casino once or twice. We've all
been pissed off. We've all been pissed off to burn down a casino. And so, it's like those things can lead to some really good lines of dialogue and emotional moments. But you have to set them up nicely, like an actual show, like you're actually thinking about how a character arc is and how people learn things and they become better at the end. There still will be your character at the end, but they have grown a lot. So to play a jerk and an edgelord at the same time is fucking hard, but it's very fun.
If you do it right, yes.
Yeah, if you do it right and your character is enduring enough, it can really make for a really interestingly different style of game than other people have experienced.
And I think it helps too that it's clear that like Sips does care to some extent for Gothy and Arena. Like that's important. You can be edgy and shit. There's no rules, by the way. If people are like, oh, I don't want to play an edgelord, play an edgelord. It's fine. You can do it.
Yeah, you could totally go for it.
But just like don't always fall into the same tropes that make it really tough to play with them, where they're just like distant and jaded and they never want to do anything with the party and they don't want to go anywhere. And it's like, why are you on an adventure? What role do you have?
Yeah, what's your fucking goal here? Like, just to be moody?
Yeah. It's really important that like if you're going to make somebody like that, they need to be able to work with the group. They need a role to fill. Right?
Yeah.
So like one of the coolest things is when two players work together to make two characters that have some sort of like underlying relationship. So like, let's say there's like this crack team that's getting together to do a thing, right? Mm-hmm. And someone comes over and they're like, I brought my cousin Jimmy, who's like a safe cracker or whatever. Like, and so now you got Jimmy. Jimmy's a big edgelord, but hey, now he's got an in because he knows this guy. And he's also got a role, right? So like in a situation like that, Jimmy's a great edgelord, working on the edge of safes and everything. But you don't have to laugh for that. That one wasn't funny. But yeah, it's like, it's all about you need to have a common goal in mind with the party, which is why session zeros, I think, are still super important, even amongst like friend groups, like, you know, people who've known each other for a long time. It's still nice to have a session zero so everybody can kind of figure out what kind of campaign is this going to be? What kind of characters are we making? Like,
yeah, so they all coexist together in some kind of stable way. Kind of. Yeah. Yeah, and the thing of like making sure they care about something is very important. Like that's one of the reasons I gave Sips Sneeze, is because I wanted him to be able to care about something, and show that he actually is not just a grumpy monkey that doesn't give a shit about anything. That was a conscious decision for me.
He's a grumpy monkey that gives a shit about a few things.
Yeah. Yeah, he has like, in total, he has about like 4 people he cares about, and that's it.
But that's still significantly more than 0, right? Like, it's still very important. And like, and I also understand the inclination to write a backstory where it's like, well, my wife and child were killed, and they were the only ones I cared about. And like, okay, I get it. You can be sad and grieve, and like maybe that's still something that's on your character's mind. But like, if it just happened, like, you either got to be out for revenge, and like this story better have something to do with that, and you better talk to your DM beforehand about that, or it better have happened a long time ago where now you're like getting back in the game and you're trying to like grow past it, right? You've had your morning. Maybe you're still a bit jaded about it, but like you can have those tragic moments, but you have to time it right. Because if it's like, you know, if we're like in a dungeon fighting a bunch of goblins and your character breaks down crying like, Maria, like, okay, you shouldn't have been here, man. Why did you leave with us?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, it's a fine balance. You have to go about it. And it's funny, I didn't make Sips's backstory until about halfway through. Like, I didn't really understand his backstory until Felix is like, hey, I need it. And I'm like, oh, okay. Let's
so
make
relatable.
It now.
Hey, I need your shit. Just give me a second.
Yeah, give me a second.
Type up something real quick here.
Yeah. And that was just before the Tarask arc, because that was when he was like, all right, I'm putting it in now. And it's like, okay.
And also there's no wrong way to like go about starting a character. Like I a lot of times will go by mechanics first, just because I want to know that if I'm playing the game, I'm having fun while playing.
Yeah.
And then for role playing, I'll try to fit a story to it that is fresh or interesting, and kind of work from there. I like to go backwards. Sometimes though, rarely, I have already the story and I'm like, oh, I know what I'm doing. Then I have to fit some sort of classes to mold into that, right? So you can go either way. It's not like you have to do it a specific way, but really, I guess the final takeaway is if you are making a character, you gotta talk with your DM at the very least, and maybe the other players, kind of touch base on what is the like tone of the game going to be. And once you have that, once you know the tone, once you know the custom rules, once you've agreed upon all the homebrew that you're going to use, and you agreed upon all the, things that you're going to do that might be different from a normal game, then you go for it. And hopefully you have a good group and it lasts a long time. You can complete it.
Yep.
All right. So I've kept you for a long time. Thank you for coming on to Podcasts and Players and talking with me, Dingo. That was very, very nice of you.
Yeah, of course. It was lots of fun. I got to really explore some ideas that I had in my head, so it was fun.
Awesome. And everybody, you should find Dingo. She's got a YouTube channel, obviously. I don't know anybody who subscribes to her who doesn't know who you are, but in case they don't, you should go to her YouTube channel, Dingo Doodles. She's also got a Twitter. You can follow her there. It's also Dingo Doodles, one word. And yeah, thank you so much. I hope to have you on again at some point. Maybe at some point.
Yeah, that sounds like fun. Maybe we do like a one shot or something sometime.
Holy shit! Don't give me hope.
Hey, the hope goes away when I tell you I would be playing Sips, and everything goes to fucking hell.